both people are trying to figure out what works best, though I have conversations with people like that all the time, but you can't have that conversation with someone who's trying to convince you of what is best, or is already convinced themselves of what is best and stuff like that. And that might be fine if they're willing to discuss how they got convinced so thoroughly, right? But
very thoroughly.
Squeegee Podcast Season 2. This podcast is sponsored by Blind Maggot, Magna Colours, M&R, Target Transfers, and Adobe Creative Suite.
For those who don't know me, my name is Cory. I run a shop in Winnipeg, Canada, Central Canada, called Floodway Print Company. We do mostly just screen printing, like 99% screen printing. Don't really outsource too much of anything or do anything else in-house. And I've been doing this since 2014. I started the shop a little like a lot of people, just seeing a hole in the market, trying to get stuff done for myself. And it's been 2014 is a long time ago, so it's been almost 10 years now.
You're like a proper active person in the screen print community. Like, you can't really be in the community for like as long as we have and not have crossed paths with you, because I just see that you're very active and you're really trying to push like how we think about screen print. You're not just like sitting back and going, oh, well, I know how to do it. I'm getting shirts out the door. Let's just leave it there. You're always constantly pushing the boundaries on stuff. Like even the t-shirt you're wearing, I know for fact that's one of your sample shirts, right? No, not sample shirts, but like a test shirt. Can you explain that?
Question. Can you see it good? I'll stand up a little. Maybe we can put a link to it, but it's, I should give credit where credit is due. I got this. I originally saw something like this on, I think maybe an Instagram account, a shop called A Small Print Shop. I forget where they're from, but somewhere in America. And they had something like this. And I remember actually I asked them to send it and they did. And that was very helpful. So it's evolved a lot since then, obviously. But the main thing, the question kept coming up in art. Like we would get to press and a line would just be too thin to print, or a gap would be too thin. And it just kind of helped to visually see it's got lines and gaps. And like, I always get caught up with thinking like I can print, I know how thin a line we can print, but not how thin of a gap. And I would always sort of get ambitious gaps booked into our schedules sometimes, like, and not notice it. Yeah. So just a limits test, and we print it just, I don't know, like I stopped printing it as our like test print for a new process, because it was made to be kind of hard mode as well. Like it's really large. And it has a mix of those things. It has details and big areas. So it's kind of tough sometimes to troubleshoot when you have like all the problems happening at once. Yeah, exactly. But it's been awesome just for that, to know like how thin of a gap we can do. And we started playing with discharge inks. This is a discharge print. And it was interesting to see that it performed better in a lot of ways without tweaking anything, like as far as details and stuff goes, especially the gaps. It did really well on gap tests.
Yeah, because like ages ago when we used to chat regularly on our Clubhouse, that was like mainly focused around lean manufacturing and stuff. But in the background, we spoke about things like, you know, hiring, any problems that we're having that day, because lean really kind of infiltrates everything. And at that time, I don't think you were doing water-based printing. I think you were Plasol. And like, what kind of nudged you into thinking about going into water-based, and like what challenges have you like faced, or like misconceptions? Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about like water-based being like this problem solver that's just going to transform all your shop problems and things.
Yeah, you hear that from people who are either like selling the consumables or selling classes or consulting on it, is usually that. But yeah, you set them on the groups a lot, and that's like for better or for worse. But that's where I see it. I see people saying, you know, like this is the best quality, the softest print, or whatever it is. You'll just hear people casually say, you know, our customers want the best stuff, and that's why we only print water-based ink. When I was buying my rock, there was a lot of video marketing around that. Just like, this is the best way to do it. And so it was always kind of a goal in the back of my head. Like, if we're a quality focused shop, we need to kind of get our ducks in a row to be able to offer that, be able to do it. Cause it's not something I thought I could do just out of the gate. It seems like something I would want to do with supportive team, like with a couple people. But yeah, the biggest challenges are kind of what you're talking about. Is it's tricky to get information. It's maybe not as consistent working shop to shop as it might. Shouldn't even say it like that. I think that people are just used to printing with plastisol. And so when there's a new set of variables that still apply to every shop, I think that hard to nail them down. But my biggest challenge, I'm in Canada, so sourcing ink has been a bit of a tricky thing. And just sort of like feeling like we're ready. When we talked on Clubhouse, I remember talking a lot about customer communication and how does that go? Because you need to set expectations based on, I don't know, like what can happen. I said I'm wearing a discharge shirt here. So if somebody asks for, oh, I want that print, but on this shirt, there's a level of complexity there. You kind of have to know what works and what doesn't. And it's not a problem. Like if you know, then you just tell them and they're like, oh, well, yeah, I want that. They just pick which one they want more. Do you want the ink more or the shirt more? And they make an adjustment from there. So the customer communication is an issue, but as soon as I got that out of the way, I find it's way easier now to, like, imagine you're doing a discharge job and you tell the client that the color is not going to be perfect and they expect that. It's like, now we don't have to, that's a huge variable. You can experiment with a real job and get back. You try to get it as close as you can, but you've already laid out, you don't shoot yourself in the foot, I guess, or lose your shirt trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think this thing that I want to get across to everyone else about you that I've noticed over the years is the way you speak and the way your thought process is very different to other people, because you're coming at it you're working backwards from the value that you're giving to the customer. And you're like, is this adding value to my customer? Is this what the customer is paying me to do? If it's not, I should be cutting that shit out. Like, yeah, It might be easier for me in my day-to-day. It might be cheaper for me, but it doesn't add value to the customer. So, can you explain that thought process? Because I've heard you say that a lot.
Yeah, I think it comes from the lean thing. And again, for better or for worse, I know I have an issue with with interacting with people online. I'm not allowed in certain groups because I just want to drill into deeper than surface level questions. If two very successful shops post something that is in disagreement with each other, I'm curious. I get that it works at both places. It must. You're two successful individuals, but I just want to know what's the difference? Okay, then why doesn't it work in his shop and why does it work in yours? And then why would it? And sometimes it's just I don't want to do it that way. And that's fair. You still probably have a reason why you don't want to do it that way. Because you don't have enough people or whatever it is, right? So I think it's difficult though to disconnect from that. And for me, lean helps me just see what value is and think about what quality is in terms of what does the customer think about it? It really does come down to the customer. I want to make the best stuff, but there's a certain point where maybe the customer doesn't value that the same way, right? We all have heard of that triangle, the quality and turnaround time and price thing. And it's it's valid, but you have to think of it as yeah, it doesn't matter how good your stuff is. A customer who likes really high quality stuff isn't gonna wait 6 months for it. Or they might not be able to, even if they're willing to pay twice as much, that might not work either. So I don't know. It's easy to get stuck maybe chasing one side of that triangle because you can go I never thought about it this way. This is good question. So I appreciate that, right? It's if you're chasing just one side of that triangle, you can easily lose sight of the other two. And people always say pick two. They never say pick one, right? You can't just pick one. And how can you balance quality with price or quality with turnaround time? You have to sort of think about it. So a question I started asking is, what is quality to a customer? It's not how thin of a line you can print. It's a factor, but I think maybe they look at it, think about the way the customer looks at it is, it's more can you print my design? Or can you make me confident that I know how thin you can print so I know my design's going to work or not? That's what they think about. And when quality, I started asking just random normies about quality. Quality is, to a normal person, is it's not going to wash off.
Yeah, that's the number one, isn't it?
yeah, it's like, it's not going to wash off. And that's like pretty much what they care about. And I think obviously that's not every customer, right? Some people know what discharge ink is and they want a shirt that feels like there's nothing on it. But yeah, I think that client communication is so key, because what is it? It's like, what's valuable to you? Do you care about the colors being correct? Well, if you do, then maybe we should give up some of that softness, just using these inks as an example. And that's with anything, like turnaround time or price or like anything. What's valuable to you? Like if you value price, I can get you to a cheaper shop. Like I can do that for you, right? And, yeah.
I've got a really good example of that actually, just from the other day. So this guy, he just needed a screen, not obviously the t-shirts printed, but I supply the screens. And the only thing he wanted was that artwork on the screen by Friday. And he didn't give a shit about anything else. And I was like, I can't do that. I haven't got the screens. And then he valued that as the result so much that I actually gave him a screen that wasn't exactly right for his image that I would have liked to have given him, which would have met my quality standards. But now he got the screen with the artwork on it for his kid to do their exam on. He's absolutely raving about us on the internet now, like giving us amazing reviews. So like what he valued is different to what the next person values. So you just got to like figure out what that is and like, how do you meet those demands? I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it, Cory. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts with the customer. Like, what do they actually care about? And it maybe goes, it's like a marketing thing. So if I want to be 100% Waterbased shop, you got to ask, like, is there enough people who care about that to make it work? Like if it costs more, like are there enough people who care? And I think there are. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I think there are, but it's really interesting to think about, like, what does the customer pay us for? Because everything in here, like even this time that both of us are giving to screen printing community right now is being paid for by our customers in some shape. Like the internet I'm using, the desk I'm sitting at, like the people who are running the press right now, and like everything to do with everything is paid for by the customers. So I was a customer of this industry, and it kills me to see it kind of get misused. And we all can relate to that. Paul Akers talks about like when you're sitting in traffic and you see like nine construction guys watching like one guy shovel. It's like, you can feel that because you at some point you pay for that. This whole like police reform thing, like people care more, I think, because like they're paying for it. They can feel that extension. So if you think about that client perspective, like these are our neighbors, you know, you're on an island as well. And you could run into these people. There's a lot of people in England, but I don't know. It's like you could see these people again. They truly are our neighbors, and we live in a society, and I just want to do good work for them. So it behooves us to, as Paul would say, it behooves us to respect their.
Like, who else behooves us apart from people?
That's why I want to clarify. That's why I needed to say something, because I would never use that in my regular language. Just that's a quote. It behooves us to respect their dollars, right? And so it comes from that. And it's like, I don't want to say I'm like a super empathetic or compassionate person, because it's a business thing. It comes from like, how do we run this business? They're paying us to make good use of their money. And they know we're profiting, but to do what? To like be there for their next order and like improve our service and do that for them. So thinking about it from that perspective, like in what we do, custom screen printing, man, it got broken down to me. Like the only time we get paid is when that squeegee is running across the shirt, not when it comes down, even like literally only when the design is being transferred, and everything else is waste. So it gets me into trouble, I think, maybe on groups and stuff. Because for me, it's like, I know it's working, and I know what I'm doing is working too. But like, what is better? And better is a big question, right? So you have to know what you value before you can answer that question. And so I think a lot to think about sometimes. And I know that
I think the only reason they're like getting upset by you questioning is because they haven't taken the time to question themselves, and then they're getting defensive. It's not like, don't be defensive about your ideas. Be open. Like if I've said something in the past 5 years ago, I'm not defending that till I die. I'm like, oh, yeah, you make me rethink that. Okay, I'll just let go of that, reassess that I'm on the right track. That's how you should be. I think they're just...
You have to rethink it. Like,
yeah.
Like everything fails. Like every improvement eventually gets replaced by one that's better. So like, you have to let go of everything. And maybe that's where it started, is like if I were to show any improvement in the shop, I would be able to think about like an absolutely terrible iteration of it from like 10 times ago that would have been presented with the same enthusiasm, with the same like, oh, look how much time it saved us, right? It saved us 20 seconds. Like, but yeah, it shifts, it kind of shifts over time. So it's interesting to think about. You got to let go of it a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. Defense is, I get where it comes from, maybe, because if you think about, if you have a successful shop and it's working for you, then what does this guy know who's questioning it? But to me, I think I can't not question it. Like the example I use, if two shops are saying one thing and the other, then it's really tricky. Like I had the Waterbased thing. I've heard people say it's the best ink ever. Like it's the only way I could feel good about the shirts going out of the shop. And then you can hear people say like, well, Plasol is just as soft and it works just as good. And then you have people say that it's like we do it because it's a sustainable choice to use water-based. And there's just a lot of like, yeah, it's a lot to peel back, right? It's a lot of layers to peel back. The sustainability thing, I saw you roll your eyes, so I got to mention it. The sustainability thing. So a big factor here is that
I didn't even know I rolled my eyes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
It winds me up.
So the sustainability thing,
yeah.
A thing for me is like, yeah, chemistry is bad, but we are trying to be very respectful of water. It's a natural resource that isn't in like very high supply here. I don't know what the deal is with England. What is the deal? Where does English like fresh water come from? On the rock that you're on, like wells? Is it?
We've never had. Yeah, we've probably just got lots of spring water. I don't know, but we've never. It's never a problem that's highlighted to us. We've only had like 2 droughts in my entire lifetime.
Interesting. Something to think about, maybe. But so in our case,
it's something that we need to conserve, but it's not like an issue that's at the top of our minds. Yeah.
And we have lots of fresh water here, but it comes from lakes that are like, it comes from lakes that were given in treaties that are very old. And like, just let me say, in Winnipeg, we get our water from Shoal Lake. Shoal Lake is an Indigenous community. I'm not sure how far it is from here. It's not that far, but they've been under a boil water advisory for like decades. And meanwhile, all of our water comes from their lake. Like we're pumping it here and boiling it, and we can't like do something over there for them. And I don't want to speak on it too much because I don't know enough about it. What I know is that it makes me very respectful of water as a resource. So where I was going with this is, yeah, you don't have to use any chemical. I just bring it to the sink and rinse it out. Well, to me, it's like we only use like 15 liters of water to make a screen. So to triple or quadruple that just to use this ink is not sustainable to me, especially if it has to be like shipped in. Like we have a Plasol factory here. Like Lancer, Excalibur inks are made here. I don't use much of them. I should, for those reasons. So sustainability is a big thing and has a lot to do with like your local jurisdiction. But I think it's crazy to market it as some blanket thing. And it happens a lot in our industry. And what I like to do is think about, okay, like what are the actual things that apply to every shop? Like, where does your water come from? Everybody can consider that and then make the choice. It's kind of hard when they're just saying like it's sustainable and you have to go through it. Like how are they not going to have their defenses up? I don't know how to go around that any other way other than to say it's not the most sustainable for me. I don't think. And is it just my opinion? Well, let's talk about it. And then it gets...
I'm saying it all the time. Like I use all 3 inks. I use Discharge Waterbased Plus or whatever. But for me, Waterbased takes a lot of water. It uses more electric when I'm curing it. It's a lot more labor. I've got to like mist everything. It's a faff. I can't just leave screens on the press like I do a Plasol if I need another delivery the next day. There's loads of variables in it. There's even, I don't have this issue personally, but you see other people having screen breakdowns. So imagine the time waste and the re-prep and that's all shit that the customer's paying for again. There's loads of stuff. And also, just because the thing that's just because it's a water-based ink doesn't mean it doesn't have any plastics or anything else in it.
Oh yeah. Let's not get too far off the rabbit hole, but like acrylic is like a plastic, and that's what is left over when you print that ink. So you should have Richard Greaves on this, because he, I think, broke it down one of the best ways
I heard,
which is about like that it's like water soluble, not really water based, and that like, yeah, for me, when I think about flushing it down the drain, it just moves that cleanup to our local jurisdiction and stuff. So yeah, like that's a great example of something that I wish people could just talk about and yeah, really talk about it. But I get it's a lot of the points you made are like, you could say, well, if you're good at it, you don't have those problems, right? If you're doing enough volume to support it, you don't have those problems. And if all your customers value it and you're tightly niched in that, that's awesome, right? But yeah, it's like I got stuck trying to be like, oh, I want to be 100% water-based shop. And then it falls apart when someone's like, why? When we run that 5 whys, it's like, well, do your customers ask for it? Well, no. Well, would they want softer shirts? It's like, yeah, I think so. But I also remember someone told me that if a customer doesn't say it to you, that it's bullshit, that you just made it up yourself. And I'm like, well, that's true. Like, I assume they'd want softer shirt. And when I ask, they say, yeah, but like, they're not asking me. You know what I mean? And when I ask them that, I'm not asking them to pay more for it either, which is something that is missing, right? Do they value enough to pay for it? So it really got me thinking about value. What is value? And like, if you can, this stuff is so soft, and if you get it into someone's hands, they can see that, right? But you really gotta ask, is this what you value? And you can say no to orders, or you can say yes, but you don't want to miss one because you only want to, like you said, the screen thing, right? You don't want to miss out on this order because, like, no, I only shoot screens on 20 Newtons or more. Like, I can't use this old one. It's just like technical masturbation that people don't pay you for, right? That's this old shirtboard phrase. They said people don't pay us by the LPI. They don't pay us by the halftone dot size, and they don't pay us by how soft the shirt is, apparently, because hard to get an objective measurement on that from people, right? That's actually something, is it softer? Like, depends how you print it. Okay, well, let me see this Plasol print that is just as soft as a HSA water-based print, stuff like that. I don't know. I just see it as tools to solve different problems that customers have. And that lack of versatility is good from maybe a niche perspective, but not everybody can do that. And to maybe not consider that in your outward marketing or your voice in our industry is silly to me. It's hard as a small shop with unique needs. And I'm not just talking about like me singling myself out. Like, there's lots of shops that are small and have unique needs, right? Almost the majority of the industry, I bet, is mostly small. Yeah, it's mostly smaller shops that have their own unique needs. So yeah, that's where I'm at, is like, you have to consider, I just want to get down to these fundamentals. Like, we know that Plasol needs like X amount of heat, 320 degrees Fahrenheit, to cure. So we should also be able to know, say that like whether a shirt should be expected to discharge or not, or just things like that.
The way people are failing on like keeping their mindset really like locked up, for example, like, water-based is good, Plasol's bad, or anything they're saying, is that actually in the background, emulsion's changing, shirts are changing, ink's changing, the dryers, everything is adapting. And like Plasol and water-based are basically merging into one blob, because Plasol's trying to be more water-based, and water-based is like basically just high solids. It just, sometimes that feels, they're just pointing at each other. So.
What would like an 80% solid, like a HSA ink, what would like 100% solid version of that would just be Plasol, I think, wouldn't it? So yeah, it's kind of, they use like a solvent carrier to get the ink through the screen a little better. And is that how it's made? I don't know. I'm still learning about it.
I went to the factory, and it's basically like, I wasn't allowed to film in the Waterbased ink factory, but I was so unimpressed. Like, I was like, oh, it's going to be some lab or something. It's not. It's just a whole warehouse of barrels, and then they just put different quantities of the chemicals in a really big barrel, stir it up, and that's your one for specialty something. And then they put a little bit more like screen opener or something in some other thing. And then there's another one. I was like, oh, that's really disappointing. I was really expecting, I don't know, like smoke and heat and all these exciting things.
I think I had that realization with white ink, like after sampling a couple and reading and being like talking to text, because they'll say like, oh, this one just has more puff in it. Or this one has more like white pigment in it. This one's whiter, right? So yeah, they're all kind of the same, like sort of set of bases and resins. And that's why this whole like art and science thing, it's like the ink is science, man. Like, yeah, there's going to be variables that throw it off, but how do you even know that you're thrown off if you don't have a baseline for it, right? Like if you know you cured your shirts and it's still washed out, you think it was bad ink, and that's because we can narrow that down. So I would like to see that for Waterbased. I guess we've kind of been talking about that, right? What's the big challenge? It's like a lack of standards across shops and just a general like apathetic attitude or whatever to like a passive attitude to setting those standards. Right. Which, so it's been a bit tricky, but we're getting it.
There's a lot about the way you run your shop, which is different to other people as well. And things like the way that you're training, and you're doing it through like videos and things. Are you still, I don't actually know what Signal is, but I know that you use it as like a little library of videos for your stuff. Is that right? Like, can you talk about
kind of like, we had been using Signal as like a chat thing, like a group chat to share the improvement videos. But my team's really small now. It's just me. I have Elijah and Beeson I just hired. So I have 2 full-time people now, and just starting to like get it back up. Like, I wish I talked to more bigger businesses, but I guess I didn't know, like when I see a company with 20 people that doesn't have their processes documented, I don't know how they could get to that point. Like I think sometimes I'm not making excuses, but I'm here by myself. Like I don't have a partner in the business or anything like that. And I don't have a long-term manager either. I think that's what I would need, right? Someone who is in production for the long term, because it's a critical role. And so is like customer service having a manager there, and so is having a manager in marketing. So yeah, it's been my approach to training has been like, because I thought that that's the only way. Like I couldn't think of any other way to get past that, right? And so I've only just started documenting stuff. Like I would make a video like you talked about, like an improvement video, or how to do a short process. I would make a sign to put up in the shop, or I would make like maybe some things are written down, you know, like what we shoot different emulsion mesh counts at, right? And I just started getting it into a Google site to where we can sort of reference it. What happened to me? Okay, my wife works at a large corporation, and she's going through training and stuff. And I noticed that like it's dialed. The culture is just a little different. Like if she has a question, her supervisor is not really showing her. She's more showing her how to answer the question, not like showing her the answer. She's like, here's the page. And like, I'm here for like, she's answering very specific questions, but she's really just guiding you through the page. It's like, let's look at the wiki together. It's called Knowledge Net. Let's look at the Knowledge Net together. And here it is. They're like a librarian. Like, here's the spot. Here's where it is. Like, is that what you're asking? Or you have some question about, like, they'll interpret step 5 for you. Here's what that means. Right. And I notice it all starts from this central place of knowledge, because there's a way to do everything. I'm not sure how much I can say, but it's like if you take a call for any situation, like someone has been through it already and it's been documented, and there's like a drop down for how to do it. Even, and like maybe there's exceptions or whatever, but not many. Seems like, yeah. And if there is, like, then what are they doing? They're like they're adding it to this thing, and she gets like an email every week that's like, here's a process we changed. Here's an example of like the problems people were having, like an improvement video. So I think it's important to have things documented. I'm just one person. And even when I train somebody on something, it's so helpful now to have it. And like reclaim is one that we have really well documented. It's just really easy to be like, here's the safety step. I always forget to tell people like the safety of using a pressure washer and stuff like that, or how the pumps work and stuff. And like just little thing. I just did onboarding with a new guy. It's like the amount of times I've told somebody where the fire exits are after like a month of them being here. It's like, it only takes 2 seconds, right? To like kind of point it around, but it helps. So it's been a big challenge and it's an ongoing process forever, but I'm trying to shift it to where it's like, we train off this, everything's kind of transparent. Like when you know these processes, you get a raise. And when you can train these ones, you can get another raise.
Really nice,
and, yeah, stuff like that.
That's a really clever way of doing it. With all your hindsight, say if you were just there on your own now, just plopped into the exact shop and you had no staff, like all your stuff just got taken away, who would be your first hire? Like what role would you fill first?
Like, so the way I would think about it is, what can I train like the easiest that has the biggest like ROI on my time? As if it's a screen printing shop, like for me, I think it's probably similar in a lot of shops. For me, I think it would be reclaim, something that I do 3 or 4 sessions with somebody and now I'm getting like hours and hours back. Teardowns is another one. I noticed counting in shirts is like kind of trickier. Yeah. I don't know why. That's like a hard one to train. I don't want to don't get me started.
You're going to expose someone now. If just expose one person who doesn't work for you anymore, you can say,
no. Like I've come to understand that it's more than just counting shirts. And that's the attitude we had there a couple seconds ago. Is like, it's easy to think that it's just counting shirts. I can count shirts so fast. Like, yeah, like you probably can, right? But you have also counted tens of thousands. Like literally think about it. It's probably in the 100,000 or more. So yeah, it's not something. I heard a good leadership thing that from a leadership perspective, like everything's harder than it looks. Everything takes longer than you expect it to. And when you're a leader, it's probably more like 5 times more. This is from Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
It says, yeah, it's like it's at least twice as hard. You know, you just say like, oh, I'll go like take the car seat out. I don't know. This is a parent thing, right? But it's going to take the car seat out of the car. Like it takes longer than, it's not just switching them around and like, I don't know, you got different belts for different cars. And that's just my example where I get like, are you done that yet? I'm like, no, like, what, like this takes more than 10 seconds. Yeah. So in a leadership perspective, everything's harder than it looks. So I would start with that stuff that has a good ROI on your time that's like easy to train. And for me, I get suggested to let go of my email all the time. And like, that's the reason I have it is because I can't think the training ROI is like not there. I think it's too hard to train. So that first person is just getting them into those little roles, like making screens. And if you're doing bigger orders, it's like our new guy we're thinking about, let's have him learn to load shirts before he knows how to do other stuff on press. Because he has screen printing experience. So it's like,
and you might just running absorb the other stuff, like subliminally, or like being near it. You might,
and it just gives us time to do other stuff. So yeah, we're just trying to always think about what order should people learn stuff in. What is the foundational knowledge? And another thing that I think shouldn't really vary too much from shop to shop. Like, where does someone start in a screen room? Like when you're at that scale, like what's the biggest ROI on time if you don't have those boxes checked already? That's what someone would say, oh, it's different at every shop because my uncle does reclaim at 2 a.m. It's like, okay, well then check that box off. And what's the next thing, right? Yeah. It's got to be something else. So for me, it'd be teardowns, to be getting the ink out of the screen and getting them ready for reclaim, stuff like that. And then coding, I can train coding pretty fast. Some people, I've heard people have trouble with that. But that's something I've never had struggle with is training. And not a brag, I mean, but like think about what your what you can train. I'm not flexing. I'm just pointing out that
I'm really good at training coding. I don't think anyone sees that.
I'm really good.
Day-to-day flex. No, it's good.
It's like the opposite of the staging and counting garments. Then you'd think you'd like, that's something I never hear anybody have problems with, but I can't for the life of me get somebody to count garments. And we have a bad process for it. Like I'll say it again. It is my process. It's not the people at all. But it's like, it's more than just counting shirts, and coding is something that had a good ROI on the time. So it's like, it's wicked. Get people in there. There's so many things, like even just watering the plants, like get somebody else to do that and think about that. So that's where I would start, is press support.
Yeah. So for somebody who's like really up on automations and things like that, are you bringing in any like AI stuff into your processes, or are you researching that in the background and trying to bring it in?
So I've been talking to Marshall Atkinson a bit about it. He's the last person I talked to about it for a while, and he does it with the art side. For me, I've been doing it I love it as the language-based aspect of it. So I use it to write difficult emails. Sometimes I use it to really help with that. I've used it to write product descriptions. I've been using it to write all of our Instagram captions. Man, that's like a hack I saw. I saw like, okay, ChatGPT, you're going to be my Instagram assistant, right? You need to remember this stuff so you can write good captions, right? We're called Floodway Print Company. We use Queen's English like every time. Like it needs to be spaced out. It needs to have emojis and crap like that. And we don't use hashtags. Those are some of my like things, right? I said, what do you need to know about me so that you can do this? And it asked me some questions that I answered. And it's not perfect, but I really am using it for stuff like that. Like, I think I'm still doing the human aspect of it. I'm editing them like crazy, but just getting the template, like build me a template for this so that I can be the human after. Been using it a lot for stuff like that. And difficult emails, like, if you have to like fire somebody or something, like write me a termination letter for these reasons. It's awesome and stuff like that. I'm going to do it I have to renegotiate my lease soon. And I heard it's really good. I think
you're looking at someone in the distance. You're getting terminated soon. I'm going to get ChatGPT to fire you.
No, it's good. I have to renegotiate our lease soon. And so that's something that I heard it's good at lawyer stuff. So
yes, it is.
Hey, write me a clause for I need a right to renew clause for my lease, and I can do stuff like that. So I've been using it a bit. It's a tool, right? It's a tool that lets us add more value to our customers, because it's not taking away any quality, I don't think, of my product description. We'll put it that way.
No. Because it's, the huge jump that I'm seeing is I'm on the beta testing for like Adobe Firefly, and it is just mind-boggling. It's taking out all vectorizers, thank God. Like they're gone. Digitizers are on their way out, but there's huge swathes of the industry that like, there's people who have companies that they've had for 40 years who do vector work and digitizing. And it's like, they think they're going to last until they retire, but they're not. A couple of years, they're out of here. So they need to watch their backs, and we need to make sure that we're still adding value in a human way, where AI can't just take our jobs and be completely automated, because it's coming for every single industry. I was even talking about that to my accountant. I was like, well, the AI's just passed the bar. It's definitely going to like learn how to do your taxes, because it's just following rules. So my accountant was worried about crypto, not worried, but when he was talking about crypto and blockchain, I'm like, what's the deal? He's like, well, the whole, like, it's all accounted for. It's like, there's no double entry accounting. Like, it's already accounted, like in the ledger, this money came to you, you went in, it can see all the money that came into you, it can see all the money that came out. So he's like thinking of it that way. And I guess we are talking about value, right? So think about, like you said it, the human thing of what you do. I don't pay my accountant to do that stuff. Just
like
keep me out of prison to make sure I'm not doing anything bad.
Like my lawyer, even, like, I don't pay them to write the friggin' thing. I pay them to like make sure it's good and make sure it protects me and stuff. And any tool they use, they have assistants already that they like a paralegal or whatever. I don't know much about it, right? But they have assistants who do this stuff anyway. Yeah, what the heck? The last lawyer thing I got done, it was like, oh, I recommend this lawyer. And I talked to the guy. He's like, yeah, I think we can do this. And someone else does it. Like, it's like, like his assistant is who emailed me and did it. Like, oh, that's kind of not odd, but he must just look at it, right? So
I think they're just like pharmacists, by the way. I think they're actually full of shit. I just got a lease done, and she was like, oh, your deposit is this amount. She wrote it on a piece of paper. And I was like, don't think so. Do you want to check? That's not what I think. And then she was like, oh, I didn't add VAT. No, she said, it doesn't have VAT on it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it does. I'll pay whatever you're saying. And then she had to call me back the next day and say, oh, actually, we are supposed to be charging VAT. So now all the other shops that they own are being charged VAT that is backdated. I'm guessing that she hasn't charged them for. Yeah. So imagine the shit show that like that's going to cause. Like, it's just human error. They're just pushing paper through and not adding.
I'm trying to let computers do as much of what they can do as possible. Like you said I'm into automations. It's because like I have no patience for something that computer can do. I hate the idea of like making a contact in some other thing, or like copying stuff between, or doing any math. Like the calculator app on my computer is like I hate using it. Why do I have to manually like plug these things in? You know, it should be there. The computers can do this. So like uploading catalog pictures and stuff, like a lot in our industry, I think could be tied together with that sort of stuff, right? We all use the same system.
Yeah, I think you'd be a really good resource for developing a shop management software that is actually like customer centric from the screen printer's perspective, as like we're the customer for it. Because I often see you like pointing out things like, why doesn't Printavo do this? Because that's the one you've been like pulled into. Mm-hmm. If again, with hindsight, you didn't have any shop management, would you go for Printavo again? Or do you think it's like too full of holes? And
these days, I think it's tough. Like you have to remember when I signed up, it was I think it was $50 a month. And then almost right away, it went to 99. So for a long time, I paid $100 a month. And that was pretty okay. Like I didn't, I thought that was worth it. I used to say Printavo was like my first shop assistant and blah, blah, blah. Cause I had worked at a shop that didn't use anything and it was a nightmare. So to answer your question, these days, I would take a really hard look at tying it together with something like Monday or Trello, you know, like Printavo does really great invoicing. And that's what I think everyone is locked in on. That's, for me, at least, the artwork approval flow and being able to show them everything in one place is really key. I'm not using Trello at all anymore. Moved it all into Printavo and struggling with some things still. Like I missed some things from Trello and it's going good, but yeah, still got to wait. I don't think there's any platform where we're not waiting for stuff. Inksoft is, well, it's the same company now, but it's all the same thing. I'm using Inksoft now too, and features just take time. And I would love to give more feedback on it, but I understand that not every ask is even relevant for every shop. But yeah, it's that's another thing that's tough to talk to people about, right? Because if they don't have the same, maybe, I don't want to say values as if it's some like ethical thing, but if they don't have the same values in terms of like safety, quality, simplicity, speed, and like and those types of things, if they don't look at through that same lens, it's hard to make people see. And hard to prioritize. Like I still empathize, right? Like I know there's tons of stuff on my list that is a really good idea, right? If you probably can relate to this too, like I don't just sit here all day and decide like, oh, here's a good idea, here's a bad one, like, we should go with the good idea. Like those are not the decisions that we get to make. It's like here's 7 great ideas and like 5 of them need to get done. So and you think you have capacity for 4, but like 5 need to get done. So what are we going to do? That's I think more accurate to the types of decisions we have to make every day, right? So I can see them how they have to prioritize like things that bring new users on, or things that keep them sustainable for a long time, or things that make the company sellable like,
which was the whole emphasis for the last few years.
Yeah, things that make the company like look better. I don't know. I'm just joking, right? But it's, I would love to give more feedback on it. I do, right? They're open to it and they're receptive to it. So, but if I was starting over, I would take a really hard look at the other options, and I want to say talk to shops, but it's hard. Like, it's hard for people to give that time and to show how their system works and stuff like that. And it's hard to design it from scratch too. I get that. But yeah, everyone has different needs. Like, we don't do any contract work. So that's like a layer of complexity that some people have that I wouldn't be able to say, write a guide on how to set up Printavo. I might not even be able to help someone truly set that up. So my approach would be more from those questions. And if I was picking, it'd be like, it's worth spending money on, but I would consider the other options. All of the options.
It's sticky because then you're in, and then you've like embedded yourself, and you've embedded yourself fully. Like, everything relies on that. So if that goes down for half a day, first of all, just like brings your shop to a halt, but also it would be such an upheaval and time waste to then move to a software that actually might be better for you, but it's so difficult to transition once you're like in there. I don't know. I've had someone say before, like, well, if you don't like the platform, then why don't you just leave? And I was like, well, that's the friggin' answer, because it's not, you can't just leave. I will say this though, to be like devil's advocate or whatever. So remember I said I just took everything off of Trello and moved it all into Printavo. So that was something that I was like super stressed out about. Like, and what it ended up being was really just it's like, what do we need? It was only like 20 things. It's like, okay, I need approvals how are we going to do approvals? How are we going to do this step? How are we going to do that step? It might've been easier if I had it documented, the process originally, and then it could just be like, okay, what's step one going to look like without Trello? What's step two going to look like without Trello? Like, for example, I used to have a label we'd put on for hard deadlines, like this order needs to ship. So it's like, how are we going to do that in Printavo? Like, let's put it in the nickname. They don't have tags. So let's put it here. Like, let's put it, like, let's do something. Right. And the list of stuff I thought was going to be a mile long, but it was only like 20 things. It seemed really quick before I was like, I haven't been on this Trello board in like a long time, you know, like where I went on it for some reason, got like an alert or something. I'm like, whoa, like this is like, I haven't looked at this in weeks and weeks. That went really fast. So, they might be perpetuating that rumor that the switching is harder than it is. That's
I didn't think it was that.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. You're married in now. The divorce procedure is too hard.
Don't clip that without context, because that sounds like so bad, right? But I don't think they're doing that, but they could easily, right? And there's no incentive for them to say it's easy. Here's how you export everything, and here's how you import everything. There's no incentive for them to do that. It's fair. I wouldn't tell my customers how to here's how to find another print shop.
I think they're hiding the unsubscribe button on the back page under the account profile or something. Billing.
Everybody does, right?
I have to ask you what your unpopular opinion in the screen print industry is, Cory.
Oh, my unpopular opinion. I think we talked about it a little bit, right? I just think there needs to be more discourse in general. And I think it's an unpopular opinion because it's not received well. Like that, sometimes those tough conversations or whatever are not received well. And it's not just in public either. It's like, there's very few people that I can have a conversation with where it's like, why, like really though, why does that work in your, why does that not work? Like, is my concern, say I'm speculating why something wouldn't work in my shop. Usually that sounds super negative, right? Usually it's just like more speculating why some other guy doesn't do that or something, right? But yeah, I just want more discourse in our industry, because I think that whole it works in my shop or it might not work in yours. I think that's just like bullshit. I think it's shallow thinking of what, just ask why 5 times. I want to apply that to everything. And I wish that, I was better at creating a safe space to do that in a conversation, but I don't know how to get around some of that stuff, because it's it's a direct question sometimes that I really want to know the answer to. I know I'm not the best at asking it. So I wish there was more discourse in our industry and more standards and more like open forum for discussion on some of that stuff where it's not ad supported or sponsor supported and stuff like that. That's what I'm interested in. Like, why does it work for you? Why do you think that it wouldn't work or it would work in my shop? And that sort of like divergent thinking, because there's always an answer. And I don't think the answer is ever just like, well, you got to see what works for you. You know, it's like,
yeah,
what could work.
This is why I like, for example, I like YouTube as a platform because I can go in there and say what I want, and you've made YouTube videos and you can say what you want and they're from your perspective. But then like if you go on someone else's platform, like in their Discord group, or you write for their magazine, or you're under someone else's kind of like jurisdiction, then they curate and edit what you're saying. And you're like,
yeah, the magazine one I could see being really tough, right?
It's
like,
annoying. Yeah. It is frustrating.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to say, like, I get their angle, right? Like they want to be respectful of everything. And that's my opinion, right? That's where my unpopular opinion comes from, I think, is that like, we need to let go of that a little bit, right? Like in BMX, no one would say like, I can air the highest and just like blast. I don't know. They wouldn't just say that. There'd be some sort of thing, right? Every quarter pipe is different and stuff like that, but there'd be some way to measure it eventually. Not like a contest, but you can look at different. Why do you think that? I'm talking about something that's subjective, right? Who can air highest is a bad example. Let me start over. So in BMX, it's like, if you're talking about who does the best tabletops or who has the best style, that is completely subjective opinion. But it's like, if you're teaching a class on why I think Chase Hawk has the best style in BMX, I shouldn't even have said a name, because some BMX riders are going to be like, no, that's like, what are you talking about? Mike Aiken has the best style in BMX. It's like, okay, like, I love to agree to disagree. I want to know, what's your presentation? I want to see, like, you would say, I'd say, because he has this video part, and I'm not like trying to argue and like be right about it. I really am just like, here's what I think. And like it might even be rooted in like, well, like there was a guy in my neighborhood who rode like that, and that's why I think that type is cool. And it might be something still totally subjective, but I love digging into it. So that discourse, I wish it was easier to have. And my unpopular opinion is that it maybe shouldn't be censored and maybe should be encouraged a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I literally see people say, I see people post opposite sides of something and like not say anything to each other about it. It's so weird. They're like, and then in private, like, well, I didn't agree with what he said. It's like, well, you didn't disagree either. Yes. And it's kind of so like, good. Why don't we have some discourse about it? Right. Why don't we have some discourse? We had a clubhouse about what is the best automatic press to buy. Yes. And I think, thinking back, I'm like, that's a good example of just a good discourse. Like, it really does matter certain things that are very specific to you, but what are those things? And if you can talk about those openly, then I could tell you what the best press is for your shop based on what we agree is important. Yeah. And it might not be the same as mine, and that's fine. I was never trying to convince you to get a green press, for example. I would tell you why I got one over these things and why it was important to me. But yeah, some people, the Waterbased thing, I've had people say literally like, oh, I don't want it. It's just not something I'm willing to debate. And it's like, oh, well, I wasn't really trying to like convince you or even debate anything. Debate is even a stretch.
But why is debate a bad word? Surely that's the only time when you're shaking shit around. That's when people can go, oh, actually, and they're just rethinking. I think because debates have like a judge and a winner, maybe. Yeah. Like a debate contest would have a winner. I don't think it necessarily means someone was right. The winner's not the one who's right, just who debated it better. And that's why I think it's about bad word. There's no competitive to it. There's this corny quote I love that's like, if everyone who was in a argument thought of it more of like a dance than a fight or whatever, the goal would be to make something beautiful. It'd be like, let's like work together and make this together. And I know it's cliche and corny, but that's really it. It's like,
if we both know where we're coming from, if we are sharing our perspectives and letting go of letting go of our, I don't want to say just our ego, but be willing. I'm always willing to have my mind change. It's why I ask these questions. Any question is because I don't know. I'm speculating and I need to have I want to be influenced some way. So yeah, I'd love to just have that discourse and that talk, that more of that discussion in our industry, because it's interesting watching people just be polite to each other. I get it, but
it's fucking boring. I'm bored of it. I'm in chats where I'm watching it and I'm like, and then they don't take me seriously because I don't have an auto and 20 staff. But actually, I know more about color separations and halftones and emulsions, and I've got a depth of knowledge over here that they don't have because they've been running the same.
For sure, yeah, I've heard lots of that too. Like when you get a big shop, or you'll understand and stuff like that, and it's like, I don't know. Help me understand it now.
Yeah.
Because, right? Because if you are like, I'm just asking a question, right? Why you do that? And for me, I think if you ask me any type of question like that, is your desk like this color, like this dark brown? And why you have this desktop? I'd tell you why. Why did you not get a new one yet? And stuff like that. Like, I could tell you why about everything.
Exactly. Just even that little question about like which press. I was just talking to Paya Press the other day, and I said, "Oh, why did you go for M&R?" And he didn't go, "Oh, because they have a 12 head something about the electrics." It was like, because their headquarters is like an hour away. I can get someone here to fix the press in like the same morning. All the parts are there. That's his reason. So it's not like, and then he might go on and say, actually, this was good, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. But if you don't know that variable that he lives right next to it, you can't
matter how fast it goes, right? It's like, he's
never going to get a rock. Yeah, because they don't.
I forget what we nailed down in that talk, but I think that was a big one: service and service and like capital investment. Like if you're mechanically inclined, you could get a used one and stuff like that, and just little things like that. They're all factors that are important. And to say like something is the best or the fastest or whatever, I don't know. In BMX, it's like, let's see. You know, when someone said their fork was the strongest, it was like they put everyone's fork in the frickin' bendy machine and it was the strongest. Like, you wouldn't just say that, you know? So yeah, I think it's interesting, and I would love to see our industry maybe have more standards and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's not easier than people make it out to be, but I think a lot more stuff could be standardized and a lot more stuff could be, what was it? I said the other day, a lot more foundational knowledge could be established. Like the example I used for Plastol was like, we know what it cures at and stuff. And we know a lot of stuff about, how that works. And even with Plastol, some of that stuff could be shared better, right? Like wet on wet printing and little things like that. Just running a press in general and all those things. There's a million ways to do it. I get that. But yeah, I'd love to see that foundational knowledge just easier to share, because people are training in shops. People are training people to do it all the time. I bet there's so much overlap between how people train coding, but there's no real good resource for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's one other little thing that I wanted to say, and I was just, anyway, it was about, the older generation and the slightly younger people, like the 30s, like, you know, how old are you? Like, you're around 30ish, aren't you? Yeah.
So I'm 33 and like
33.
We're like no longer in the young generation.
No, I know. That's why I didn't get to call myself young. So I'm 35 next week. But we're the generation who are owning shops and studios and businesses and making these decisions. And then the people who are teaching us are really, they're a lot older. They're in their 50s, 60s, but they're not communicating the information in a way that's palatable to us. They're doing these really long-winded essays. They're doing these magazines that no one reads because it's just absolutely covered. It's like reading a textbook and it just goes over your head. We need it in a format that is palatable to our generation, which is videos, it's demonstrations, it's things that we're used to accessing our information on. We can't, so there needs to be some kind of like connect between the stuff they're saying, which is very good and is knowledgeable and they've built up over this long time, but it's just going to die on the shelf because no one's looking at it.
Yeah.
We need to like freshen it up and extract all that information from the older generation and bring it into our shops. That's just something I've got in my mind at the moment that I want to do.
It's on my mind too. Like we talked, like if I'm thinking about darkroom stuff and anything in any like darkroom sort of thing, it's like I got so much information from those old articles and stuff like that. Like something that I got stuck on in my shop is like I knew that there's different emulsions and stuff like that, but I didn't understand what the differences were. And after I learned that from like an old article, because that's old knowledge, like foundational knowledge that has existed. So after I got it from that article, I realized that some techs I had talked to in the past, like might not have had that understanding, or else maybe they would have been able to solve my problem or like address the issue that I came to them with. Right. And so like, I love that stuff. Like when I hear you say that, it's like, it's important. It makes me think of how important it is to receive that information the way it is, to like take it as it is. And it's our duty to like keep passing that on. Not duty, but I wouldn't expect someone from that, like someone who doesn't do video demonstrations. I wouldn't expect someone to do that. Not saying you are, but yeah, that's where all the valuable information I think is now. What I'm worried about is it getting lost in translation. Because like the best information is in those boring tech sheets and those boring tech articles you're talking about. I've learned so much from those, so much more from those than I ever have from Facebook groups or anything. And that's where that's where I start asking questions, right? It's like, well, I read a tech sheet that said this, and I know that the guy in a lab doing it, but that information's there, that foundational knowledge is there. So it's really important to like go through that stuff. And well, what are you doing except like reading it and trying to train your team on it? You know what I mean? So I don't feel a duty to do that to like screen printer community. That's not what I meant, but like we have a duty to pass it on as leaders, right? If we see something good, it's like, I need to show that to my darkroom guy. And I need to maybe I can pick through and show him the important parts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we're like the middle ground for it is boring information. It's stale and it's quite hard to get through, especially as someone like who doesn't read that much. Like I take all my information through like Audible and stuff like that. So to like go out of my way to read a really horrendously boring textbook or tech sheet and then filter out the information that might be useful is difficult, but it is our responsibility so that we're saying the right things and giving the right information out.
And maybe not always us as leaders, but like if you have a production manager, like what's he going to do with that article? When I talked about Reclaim, so that Reclaim page I would have with all the resources, right? It would be like the goals, like the amount of time per screen we're aiming for. It would be the process, like what we do before we start, how we clean the screen, what we do after. At the bottom, I started adding those resources, like where this stuff comes from. It's not necessarily like mandatory required reading, but it's like, this is the deeper reading. This is where it comes from. Sometimes it's a video, but I find not often like the deepest stuff is coming from those tech sheets and stuff. But yeah, that's it. It's like, I would like to see more of that passed on. I think the problem is that the funding for that just isn't there. I think that used to be a really viable form of marketing for these companies. I don't know if it's a viable marketing for them now. Like, I saw Ryan Moore just say, maybe even today, saying that like the video, like the educational marketing they do, like the education stuff they do is the best form of marketing that they have. And they've tried other stuff, but it's the best form. So I guess what I'd like to see is maybe it not be so marketing motivated and really stick to that core of like being educational resource. Because the people who are getting money and resources to make those videos are not the educators that it was 10 years ago. It's the like marketers and the influencers these days. And I think there's a big difference. No offense, Chessie. I think there's a big difference between like the old school educators, right? And like what we do now.
That's
the reason. I don't mean it in a bad way.
No, that's the reason. That's the reason I'm doing well in the placement where I am, because before I did the videos, I'm teaching people here. So I know how to teach people how to screen print. These companies can't project their information in a way that's palatable. I can like bridge that gap. So I'm basically being the little bridge here between the relatively boring information that isn't getting through. And yeah, I do have to monetize it so that I can spend my time doing it. So I have to get some kind of financial incentive to do it, or otherwise, if I don't get paid to do it, I wouldn't produce as much. I would produce it as and when I've got time, which doesn't turn up. Your time doesn't turn up like that.
Well, that's why my channel's dead, right? Like that's the same. I have the same challenge, right? And I think it's really good what you're doing, like approaching it from the from the educator perspective, because it's like, that's what's missing that's what's missing is good point. Like it is a service that you're doing is like translating that down. So it's huge. It's like cat spit, you know what I mean? Like he made a lot of educational videos.
Yeah, it's not paying off for him financially because he put it all on YouTube, and now he's trying to take it all back and like repurpose it as like paid for videos, but it's like it's already on YouTube. So he's like, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's like I would like to see our industry support that more, like support like educators more than content creators, because like I get they're both valuable. I shouldn't say like wouldn't want to see any less go to content creators. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. But yeah, I'd like to see more resources go to educators as well, because it's really interesting, or have them work together, maybe like make them work together a little closer, right?
This is happening though, because on YouTube and all the platforms, they have things where your kind of fans or whatever appreciate you financially. So if you've given someone a really good bit of information, they can literally just pay you and say, oh, thank God, that really helped me out. That video just solved this problem that I was having. So then it's less influencer like marketing, like acting, and it's more solving problems and then getting paid directly from the people instead of like how many views you're getting and just sensationalizing this bullshit, which I hate.
I heard a YouTuber pitch it like that. Like they said that it was a video about running ad block on YouTube, and it was kind of like the gist I got, or the lesson I took from it was that like the ad revenue you give to a person you're watching is so small. And if you actually cared, that literally donating that dollar would be more than they would ever get from you as just a viewer in ad space. So I love thinking about it that way too, like getting it off these platforms and stuff like that. Or it makes me think of like, that's a huge incentive for these brands to do it, to like make this content, because it's maybe something people would pay for. It's not something that like is ever going to be there for. It's not like ad revenue that's going to pay the bills. It's like it's a deeper level of it. Yeah. So I'd really love to see more educator content rather than like influencer content, because right now the educator content I see even now is like it's entertaining. It's like it's too entertaining. Sorry, I got a call. Oh, sorry. It's just a little too that's how I would put it. It's the educational stuff is not technical. It's not like boring enough. And I get how it has to. I guess I empathize with like what you're saying, making the videos, how you do have to balance those things. You're trying to make it more digestible. So yeah, I'd like to see more resources go to people like you.
It's very kind. I'm trying. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've got it yet. And I think in a few years, I'm going to hone it in more. But you've just got to make shit videos to then eventually just keep editing it to make better ones. I think I've taken up a lot of your time, Cory, because I could talk to you for hours.
Chilling.
Like,
I was going to say when we started to be careful, because I can talk. I would talk all day if we could, right?
Yeah. Could I ask you some more stuff then?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was wondering how you plan your business. Like, so for example, for us, we've got like a very like tight 10-year goal, and then we've broken it down backwards from there. Like, do you have that kind of like ambition for your business, and what does like success look for at Floodway?
I think I planned it better before. I haven't really revisited it since like COVID, since kind of like re-looking at it there and refreshing it there. I just got recommended a book called like Start at the End, which is kind of what you're talking about. Maybe not so much a 10-year goal, like a time base, but to think, so at that 10-year goal, it's like, what does my business look like at those 10 years? And then okay, what do I need to do to have 60 days off a year? What needs to be in place? And kind of working your way back from there. So my answer is no. I think it's maybe like the biggest thing that's held me back is a lack of clear goal setting and a lack of like deciding what's done or what that looks like. What growing the shop, I want to grow the shop. What does that look like? What is it? I've only really started thinking about that this year. Like I traveled maybe like just over 20 days last year. So it's like, I want to do more this year. Like that's what I started the business for, is to like have a real job that had more flexibility than the real jobs I had before. That's a huge thing for me. Right. So no, like I don't have that. And it's, it's something I should do. I've been kind of just going like, not year to year, but yeah, well, okay. Without a clear goal in mind, like you have, Chessie, that's all you can do is just kind of go year to year. And I'm starting to figure that out now. So I don't know if you asked that question so I could phrase that. That is, how many people say that they have something like that, like a 10-year plan? Because that's something that I don't think a lot of people do. So good on you for having that. It's like, it's something I need.
I don't have as many things getting in my way as you, because you've got like the family life, which is constantly evolving and is like a challenge all on its own. Like, have you had to like adapt? Are you thinking more like, I want more days off so I can spend with my family, and that wasn't a priority back when I started, when you were maybe perhaps single?
I rode BMX before, right? Like I'm trying to ride, even now, like I'm trying to ride. Like it's nice out tomorrow. Like I'm leaving here at 4:00 sharp tomorrow because we're going riding tomorrow. Like I have plans. So I'm definitely trying to do that. And that was the case before I had kids and before all that. I have 2 kids. They're just about to turn 6 and 2. And it's not like, I want to be home more and spend time with my family. But like, I don't know, like you have a partner too, right? So you have things going on and everyone has family to take care of, right? Like you had something yesterday with like your family. So whether it's your kids or something else, it's like we started this business, at least me, I started this business because I wanted a job, like a good job. And it was connected to things, every motivation for it was like outside of screen printing. It wasn't to like have a shop this big. It was more connected to that goal. Like, well, maybe if I had a shop this big, I'd be able to do these things. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't have that. And if I did, I think I'd have a clear connection of like, maybe the shop doesn't need to be this big to have this goal. Yeah. Or maybe, right. So yeah, I'm like, I don't measure. I at the beginning of interviews, they ask like, how big's your shop? I didn't even say.
It's dick measuring, Cory. Like,
yeah, we have a 1 auto shop. I want to know, how many days off did you take? Yeah. What's your salary?
What's your profit margin? I wish that was like floating above all our heads, like the Sims.
Wing that around. Yeah. Tell me that. That's what I want to know. You have 100 autos. What's your salary? It better be 100 times what mine is at 1 auto to have 100 times more headaches.
That's so true.
I wonder, like, to have 4 autos, like, is your salary 4 times what mine is? Is that so many more headaches? There kind of would be, I think, right? And you have 4 times more employees, better have 4 times more salary. I definitely think about it that way. So no, I don't have the plan, but it's something, like I said, that book reco, and like I journal a lot.
Yes.
And I know that it's not connected. I know it's not connecting. It was Rob Dyrdek, actually, the skater, who had an interview. He's like a hundreds of millionaire now, this guy. And that's something he said. He connected that back because it's like, what's the return on the investment of your life? Like your whole life is a trade of your energy for things that you get back. And whether you're getting that from your family or your partner or your other, like your kids or your family, your partner, even your business or your hobbies, it's coming from somewhere, right? So what's the return on that?
I do think that journaling thing that you just said quite quickly is, and if anyone's like sat there and they're just thinking, oh, how can I make this big improvement in my life and structure and my business and stuff, that would be the cheapest, easiest way to do it. Because a lot of people get to the beginning of the year and they're like, oh, I need my New Year's resolutions. Journaling is doing New Year's resolutions, assessing what you did, and then making new resolutions every single day or however frequently you journal. So it's like you're just hyping up your productivity and just like your focus in like an exponential way. That's like it's just a book. You can just like date it and then say it and then go back in your journal 2 years.
Mine's a mess. I don't think I go through them much. Like I don't go back through, like it's
really good. If you go back, do you write goals and stuff on there? And then
so that's where it comes from. It's like, I should be doing like 3 things a day and have these goals, but like I don't have them connected to something larger that serves me. I don't have them connected to like, the way Rob Dyrdek said it, he's like, if you have a goal, say to make $100,000 in 5 years, and then you did something that just moved that to 4 years, like it's crazy the way you think about it. And so how that would motivate you, right? And I don't really have that over here, that end goal. Like I have a idea of it, like a gut feeling. Like I said, I want to be more flexible, take more time off, have less stress and more money, right? Like the obvious stuff. But what do I need to do to get to that? And what does that look like? That's what I'm kind of connecting. I think I'm going there, but just not the straight and not as directly as I maybe could be with that.
Yeah. Right? It is exciting when you have it because it makes decision making much easier, and it makes, say, like if someone comes to you with something that would sound quite an exciting proposition, you're like, nah, it doesn't align with my 10-year goal. And it's easy to say no to it then. And then other stuff that you would have never thought of, you're like, actually, that does align with my goal. I'll eat that up right now. So it makes decision making a lot easier, and it makes you not get sucked down holes that I do that a lot. I get sidetracked into things that are shiny, and then Em basically pulls me back and she goes, no, that's not the plan. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, it's not the plan. I shouldn't waste my time there. So that's the reason it's helped us. Yeah,
it's so key. I love like,
look at that leash.
it helps me like detach, I think, a bit. For me, it's like if I have any problem and I start just like talking about it here, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, hey, this stuff didn't show up today. That's super annoying. Maybe it went here. I guess I gotta like find out where it went, and it just breaks it into like, I guess I just gotta like find out where it went and order the replacements and tell the customer it's going to be late. And now I'm just now it just looks like nothing. Now it seems like nothing, and you just do it, right? It's just something on your list. But it's been critical for me. I like the analog too. I'm not really using digital like lists anymore. Just trying to stay focused on a couple things a day and not get distracted, right?
Brilliant. No, I think that's really key. Yeah, perfect.
I'm doing that. It's like, I'm doing it right away. I'm gonna like cruise through that book is my plan, and then just sit down and do it fresh.
Yeah. So what was that thing about like Hull? Like, I know you lived in England for a bit. Like, can you tell us like where Hull comes up? Like, it's like it's kind of a, short story long. Every time I talk to any screen printer in the UK, I mention that I used to live in Hull for almost a year. And Hull in England is like, I don't know, it's kind of like the Winnipeg of how Winnipeg is in Canada, like Hull is in England. I can't think of an American place that would be comparable without like showing my ignorance and maybe
some like unknown prejudices, but it just kind of maybe has like a rougher reputation. It's kind of remote. You wouldn't really like have a reason to go there and stuff like that for the most part, I think.
Why were you there?
Yeah, I lived there a couple of years. So not a couple of years, a couple of months. So I lived there to just ride BMX. Some BMX riders in Winnipeg. How did that happen? No, some BMX riders from England ran into some skateboarders from Winnipeg in Barcelona, Spain, and got to talking about cameras and stuff because they're just filming each other filming like their respective crews or whatever, doing tricks. And I guess through the grapevine, through them being MySpace friends after that or whatever, they said their friends from England were coming to Winnipeg. And these two English guys came to Winnipeg and I met them. I was living in Winnipeg. I met them. They went on their North American trip or whatever. And that just started this sort of connection between Winnipeg and Hull. And lots of people just would, if a guy from Hull wanted to go on a trip to Canada, he would like
an exchange,
come to Winnipeg. Yeah, he would come and stay at our place and stuff like that. And so,
cool.
Like the summer, I think there was 4 or 5 of them out at one time. These guys from England, and they were staying at our house, and it was crazy. And I don't know. At the end of their trip, our lease was kind of coming up too, and like our house was sort of falling apart. Like not the relation, like we weren't sure where we were going to go next, or if we were going to keep the house or whatever. And so I just got kind of literally the easiest option for me at that time was like to move in with these guys in Hull. Like the easiest room I could move into was like in England, like in Hull.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we were already kind of talking about going on trips, like going to Barcelona together too. So it's like, well, I'll just come there and stay there and just live with you guys. So I worked in a greenhouse and rode like old English skate parks, had a great old time. I think I gained like 30 pounds like in the summer I was there, just like enjoying the English food and like pub life, like they showed me a really good time. Like I miss just like pints of smooth, and I miss like I miss like chippy Fridays, like fresh fish and chips, and just like the craziness of just being in what people think is an American, like being a Yank in England is such a interesting experience. Like it's not like being I have a lot of empathy for people just people from other places in general. Like if you have any sort of accent, I totally empathize with you now. It's so annoying trying to communicate with people. Like it's hard. People think I sound crazy. And they don't really see too many like tourists,
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, Hal, but
it's beautiful and like don't get me wrong, it's a nice place. It's on the sea, and like I don't know, it's nice. It's English. It's like as English as it gets,
Yeah.
But it's I had nothing bad to say about it. It just didn't work for me. I missed the sunshine and stuff like that. I had just like more fun happening at home, so I ended up coming back. But I had so much fun in London. I had so much fun in Hull. And just going around like those areas, like just around Northern England to ride with all those people. Like Sheffield was crazy. Manchester was awesome. And like Bristol was cool too. Like
Bristol's amazing.
We went all through the kind of Northern England, and it was wild. I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. I miss it. It was really fun. And
I'd love to host you if you do come back to England. I don't know what I'd show you with skateboards, but skating, but there'll be somewhere near here.
There's people around. Like England has a crazy BMX scene, like bigger, I think, per like capita than we have here. It was it's crazy over there. I had so much fun. But anytime I talk to an English shop, I have to mention that because it's something that makes them think like why? Yeah, just like you said, like why were you out here? I was just working in a greenhouse and riding with my friends, and that was it. Like people thought I was crazy.
No, that seems like a little dream part of your adult life early on. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's weird to like reminisce or think back to it, right? Like it was like Harry Potter, like living in the cupboard under the stairs, like with your English friends.
But you don't care when you're like
pet.
Yeah. just throw in some chips and some beer or something. But I do like the English people have like, we've got like cultural things, you know, we've got like a history, and we do have pubs, and we have like a way about us and stuff like that. So especially the Northerners, they're very, you know, they've got like the whole way of approaching people. So yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know that was a thing. Like,
yeah,
they have just a different attitude, like your average Yorkshireman, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, they're funny. I think they're like some of the funniest people I've ever met, and some of like the hardest laughs I've had were like in England with crazy English people, and or that just them laughing at me. But I had a ton of fun, and I learned so much. Like, it's different than here. Canada just celebrated its like 150th, it's like 152nd birthday or something. Yeah. England is like old. Like, the oldest stuff we have here. I'm in this building. It's like probably one of the oldest buildings in the city. It's 108 years old. That's like nothing. Like that's like, I'm pretty sure the corner store that you go to is probably in a 150-year-old building. It's like
that pub is older than your country. I know. It's funny, isn't it?
People have been going here for beer since like before time. Yeah. And so it was really interesting from that perspective. It's like you have to pay respect to it, and there's a reason why things aren't any better, because it's been here for 600 years, and it's like not broken. So we're gonna pay respect to it now and live it. I loved it. Everything was so old. I remember that. Cobblestone everywhere, and like.
Do you want to know like a really boring pub fact?
Get in there. Yeah.
So, did you notice that all the pubs are called things like Red Lion and just like random things like, I don't know, Black Goat and all that type of stuff, but they're all like repeated. The
Blacksmith,
they'll always be like one of those. It's because people, when the pubs like were built, the people couldn't read because they were illiterate, because it often like just tradespeople. So then they had to put big pictures on the signs, on the swing signs, so that it was literally like a red lion. So they'd all meet up at the right place because they couldn't read the pub names. Yeah.
Just visual controls, right? That's the principle of lean.
It bring it back to screen.
It surpasses any like language barrier. It passes any like point of inebriation. Like, we're at the Red Lion.
Like,
that's actually pretty good.
It's a lion, not a bear. Yeah, and then you know you're at the right pub. It's funny. Yeah.
I miss it though. It's fun. Like, I don't know. They should have like a big screen printing trade show. Why aren't like the big European trade shows? They should have them in England. So
we've got one, but it's a bit. There's like one screen printer there, and they don't even print shirts
like
when you're there.
Only?
Yeah, UK only, once a year, and it's basically just like an entire room of people trying to sell you DTF and DTG, and it's like, nah.
Yeah. Consumables they're trying to make their money on.
Yeah, I used to go and be excited about it because they used to have like fashion shows, or like they tried something, and they even taken the fashion show, which I used to find hilarious because they used to do backflips and stuff. But yeah, no, I'm going to an American one soon. I'm definitely going to head out there and experience that.
Nice. Yeah. I haven't gone for a while, but have you been to North America before?
I've been to America a few times, but I haven't been to when I'm like an adult in the industry, like going to a trade show. But I've been to lots of big events over there. So yeah, I think
it'll be like you're in a movie. That's what everyone said to me when I was in England. They're like, it's like hanging out with someone who's from a movie. So I bet you that's what I remember them saying that when they come here too, that it's just like stuff you see in TV shows. Like, it just looks like America when you get to California. Even me, actually. So if I go to California or somewhere like Hollywood, it's like, whoa, like same deal. It's like, I've seen this place on TV. Yeah. So it'll be fun. Yeah. I really appreciate your time, Cory. I think we could probably talk for hours.
I feel like we're gonna just like spontaneously combust a room that's like not an arguing room, but we can maybe change the connotations around that word, and maybe we can make a space that's like better for agitating opinions, we could call it. I think that's what's needed. Like, where everyone's like, ego, you put your ego over here. This isn't a personal attack. Let's just discuss ideas openly and not get upset and riled up at each other for doing so. I think that's what we need. Yeah,
I think it'd be great. Just like, I just want to be, well, like that's cheesy quote, right? If both people are trying to figure out what works best, though I have conversation with people like that all the time, but you can't have that conversation with someone who's trying to convince you of what is best or is already convinced themselves of what is best and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that might be fine if they're willing to discuss how they got convinced so thoroughly, right? But
very thoroughly. It's like, yeah.
So I'm always open to learn and be proven wrong, because the only way I've learned anything or made any improvement is by like failing or being wrong about something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really nice way to end it, Cory. It kind of like rounds up, and I think I've managed to get across what I like about the way that you communicate, hopefully in this.
Well, I appreciate you giving it a shot, because like I said, for better or for worse, I spend a lot of time in the groups trying to get better at talking about it. That's like my self-motivation or whatever for being there, is like to get better at talk this stuff, because I hate the idea of somebody here asking me something and me sounding like that decision wasn't made from like principles we agree on, or I wouldn't want it to not add up with principles that we do agree on. So I got to be open to being wrong all the time. Like I get shown stuff every day, right?
Yeah, so that's just the way we do things.
It's the word. Yeah. So thanks again, and keep in touch, eh?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Cory. Bye.
Okay, have a good day. See ya.